Hey guys, welcome back to Ferrigno Freedom channel. I'm Dante Ferrigno, and as many of you know, I've been on a carnivore diet now for about 3.5 years, and it has changed so many things in my life. I often say it's changed everything. I don't want to give too much credit to the diet because there's a lot of things that still need some change, and one of those things that we may need to do some change in our thinking on is what we put our food in. I want to share a quick article with you here. This is an article by the Epoch Times called "Remember the Good Old Days When Wood Was Wood." I am fond of wood, glass, wool, brass, and other natural materials. There is something so luxurious and honest about them in a world drowning in plastic. Not that plastic doesn't deserve its uses. It's cheap, easy to work with, and plentiful. We can use plastic to make everything from blankets to baking sheets. Its versatility has been enhanced with thousands of chemicals to give it attributes like flexibility, heat resistance, and structural integrity. Unfortunately, plastic has become a plague of sorts. Among other things, it exposes us to chemicals that interfere with our hormones. A study published in Environmental Science and Technology earlier this year found even our plastic food packaging has hormone-disrupting chemicals and puts us at risk of developmental and reproductive issues, not to mention hormone-related cancers. Coincidentally, two hormone-related cancers, breast cancer and prostate cancer, are the most prevalent cancers for women and men respectively. Another issue is that plastic breaks down into particles small enough to be inhaled and ingested without our awareness. That means even plastic that has never touched our food or water can end up in our bodies. According to a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, microplastics were found in the blocked arteries of over half the people in a study published in March, 150 out of 304 people. These people were 4.5 times more likely to have a heart attack, stroke, or die in the following 3 years that researchers monitored them. And the above problems are becoming more severe due to the rapidly rising volume of plastic in the world today. Australian researchers estimate that many people could be eating the equivalent of a credit card in plastic each week. Global plastic production has more than doubled in the last 20 years, according to two data sets collected by Our World in Data. It's so common that avoiding it can be tricky. My wife and I do our best though. Same here, and I'm going to talk about that. We often buy things secondhand to get higher quality items at a cheaper price, whether that be wool winter clothing or real wood flooring. If we need something, I set a reminder on our local buy and sell website to alert me if it comes up for sale. I can include the materials I prefer: brass lamp, teak table, leather chair. There is something of the time held in these better made goods, something authentic. They do more than hold their value. They hold something of the people of their era. People had fewer things back then, but better things. I cringe at the thought that people will buy particle board furniture with a plastic coating to make it look like wood, while solid oak bedroom sets go to the dump because they are dated. The benefits of our plastic floors, vinyl, blankets, microfiber, and cookware coatings are that they are convenient and cheap to buy, but they cost us as well. As these things we cook, sit on, wear, and fill our homes with become cheaper, more disposable, and unnatural, I worry we lose touch with the very idea of enduring quality and authenticity. You know, I really can relate to this article because we've been hearing about microplastics being found in people. I remember seeing something recently where microplastics were found in men that they tested in their testicles to see if they actually had microplastics there. I don't know how they did that test, but you know, hearing something like that is really concerning to me, especially since I'm raising two boys. And I remember the era that I grew up in the 1970s and 1980s, where you could stand on the kitchen table if you wanted to. You could use the furniture in your house to stand on if you needed to reach something. And I see people today, I like to watch some of those videos sometimes, where the fail army videos where people fall. I don't know why I find that stuff funny, but sometimes I do. But what I don't find funny is when I see people that stand on their countertop, or they go into swimming in a pool that has a diving board on it, because so few pools are even deep enough to have a diving board. We know how old they are. And people, those things break so easily, especially the new stuff though. You know, the old stuff might break because it's been out in the sun for so long. But when we're talking about kitchen furniture or tabletops and countertops and things like that, Things just aren't built like they used to. All of the stuff that we had put in here came from Home Depot or Lowe's or somewhere like that. And it's not real wood. I had real wood in a house I lived in once, and I never worried about putting anything heavy on those shelves. But I know that if I have a lot of heavy stuff on a shelf like this that's made of this particle board that's covered with some kind of plastic veneer or whatever it is that's on top of it, that eventually it's going to start bowing in the center and not be useful for me. So what do we do about all of this? Well, as I'm about to cut open a pack of steaks that are wrapped in plastic and put them and put salt on it that comes in a plastic bottle, even though it's BPA-free plastic, that doesn't limit the exposure to microplastics. But what can we do? And I'm going to tell you some of the things that I'm doing to limit our exposure to microplastics as much as I possibly can. One of the key things that I have found that affects microplastics getting into our food is the exposure to heat. So if we can keep the plastic parts away from the food when it's being heated, it should make a big difference. Since the plastic that's wrapped around my meat is designed to keep it safe in the freezer, I hope that the exposure to the microplastics leaching into the food is much less. I assume that's the case since what I've researched indicates that heat plays a big role in allowing these microplastics to get into our food. I've started using things like this metal tray here as opposed to using any type of plastic tray to put my food on for long periods of time. But as you can see by the dark areas in the middle of this tray where I've used flames on it, that's one of the things that I like to be able to do is I like to be able to heat my meat up or to sear the exterior when I'm cooking something. So this allows me to have something that doesn't have any plastic when I'm using it with my food. Now even one of my favorite devices I use, the air fryer, most of them are made of plastic on the outside. Now the inside is all metal, except for when you look up inside, there's a little vent on the back of the air fryers that allows the heat to go out. The one thing I can say about that is the air fryer is constantly blowing air into the food, so it's pushing it out instead of onto the food. That's at least encouraging. So we can take solace in knowing that that's the case with the plastic exposure. Some of these things are actually silicone, like the tip of the heating probe here. So there's a lot less exposure to microplastics that way as well. I think one of the best things we can do to help minimize our exposure to plastic getting into our bodies through our food is to go through the kitchen and find all of these plastic storage items that I used to have, which is what I'm doing now because I've just ordered some more Pyrex, and replace them as I can with real glass. Something that's not going to have that plastic exposure while I'm heating the food up again. So I've been slowly replacing all of those plastic items with these Pyrex items. Now they do have plastic lids on top, but as long as you reheat them without the lid on there, which you can do if you'd like, but even still it's not touching your food, so that at least minimizes the food. I mean, when you've got a steak or a piece of meat or something that you're going to heat up, to a pretty good temperature, and it's touching the plastic while you're heating it, it makes sense to me that that's going to cause more leaching of plastics into your food. And these are much cheaper than these. As a matter of fact, for instance, I just bought a set of 4 of these Pyrex plates, and I think it was around $30 that I paid for 4 of these. Yet I can buy a whole package of these with like maybe 8 or 10 of them in here, and they only cost a few bucks. So it does make a big difference in how much you can afford to spend, and I can't afford to go through my whole kitchen and throw away all the plastic. But slowly what I've been doing is replacing them as I can with real glass. And it's not just the storage plates, it's things that you use like kitchen tongs, plastic. I've been trying to replace those more and more with either metal or in this case, wood. These are olive wood tongs so that I have something that's not touching my hot food with plastic. Spatulas are another thing that sometimes I have to use when I'm making eggs for the kids, you got metal options, you got plastic options. The metal options are gonna be more expensive. So if you're like me and you've got a house full of these plastic items, you're gonna wanna try to slowly maybe upgrade them. And you can do that as he said. You can buy them in yard sales. People are getting rid of a lot of the good older stuff that was available that still works great and lasts for years and doesn't have the problem that plastics do. Same thing with our plates. I have one left here of the plastic plates I'd like to get rid of because I've got plenty of glass plates now. I'd like to have a few extra glass plates because we really don't have enough for as often as our family uses them, and we try to wash just once a day. But, you know, it's something that's a slow process that we're changing. Getting rid of the plastic bowls and going over to the glass bowls is going to help you to be able to do that, because a lot of times we have food in these, we stick them in the microwave. I'd rather it be sitting on glass than I'd rather it have it on plastic because of the microplastics problem. Even my salt grinder that I've talked about, which is plastic on the entire exterior, the part that does the grinding of the salt is ceramic. So at least I feel a little bit better about it having that, and I'm not heating up the salt as I'm putting it on the steaks. And that way I can enjoy my steaks with my favorite Redmond smoked salt, and I don't have to worry about high exposure to microplastics. Now there is a better way. This salt grinder was about $18. I could spend about $50 on a salt grinder and get one that's all ceramic and glass and doesn't have any plastic parts, if I can find one. You'd be surprised how hard it is to find devices of any kind these days that don't use plastic in some form or another. But at the same time, who can afford to make all these changes? Well, we got to start somewhere. And that's all I'm encouraging everyone to do, is to try to start somewhere with watching out for the plastics that are being used in your house for your kids to eat, for you to eat. Because my goal on this channel has always been to help people get healthier and happier. I know Lion Diet has changed a lot for me, but there's still other areas that we've got to be aware of so that we can keep our families healthy and happy. One of the most important things I want to leave you with is the fact that this plastic situation has come up over a period of many years. There's not much we can do about it now, but there are some things we can do. Take the best steps that you can. The one thing I do know is that Lion Diet changed everything for me, and it can probably change everything for you. If you're looking and feeling anything like I did back when I started this way of eating, where I had gut problems that doctors couldn't explain, and brain fog, and all the other problems that came with the standard American diet, nothing beats eating good old-fashioned meat to help you get all that synthetic material and genetically modified organisms out of your way of life. Look at that beautiful deliciousness. Just as natural as you could ask for. Well, that's just what I think. I'd like for you guys to let me know what you think in the description, and I'll see you guys next time.